All right, everybody. Welcome back to ACES53. It's usually with Ed Parco and myself, but today it's going to just be me. I'm waiting for Instagram to catch up so I can go live over there. So if anybody ever wonders why my eyes are always darting all over the place whenever this is going on, oh, I forgot I have my earpods on. Let me take those out. Let's move to the regular one. It's because I have a mega display here. So I've got iPad down here, got a huge monitor. It's one of the wraparound monitors. So I have different things in different areas. So you always see my eyes darting around. That's part ADD. That's just part of who I am because I'm always looking at all the different screens to see what's happening and what's not. So look, today may get a little emotional, may not, because normally Thursdays is when we have on a joker. But today we're going to talk about somebody who did have that special skill or talent that completely changed my life that unfortunately passed away on Monday. And that person is Steve Sims. So 2021, I was in corporate America, miserable at my job, but I had golden handcuffs. I made good money. And what I started doing as a passion project on the side was speaking, teaching people the skills that changed my life. So what is my main niche that I'm known for is decoding faces, AKA face reading. Yes, it's face reading. But when you say that, people are like, ooh, can you read palms too? And no, I can't. So it was one of those things I was looking for an escape. And that escape was I started speaking for free. And I actually started speaking in 2019, but then we know what happened in 2020. But I would take days off work. I would take vacation time. So there wasn't a conflict of interest and got to meet some interesting people. In 2019, I met Joe Ingram. And we something called Bradley's Mastermind course, and it's called Closer School Live. And Joe's like, "Hey, you want to be a co-host on my show?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So on Thursdays after I got off work, I would join his. And on one of those weeks, when I was a co-host, Joe Ingram interviewed a gentleman known as Steve Sims, aka Steve. Oh, here comes Ed. Hey, Ed.
Hey, sorry about that.
That's all right. I knew you were still traveling.
I didn't want to interrupt your talk there.
You're fine.
I was just down there at the bottom until you finished your statement. And then
I saw you.
Oh, there's Ed.
Yeah. So Joe Ingram has War Game Wednesdays, and one of his guests one week was Steve Sims, aka Steve D. Sims. Why? Because there was somebody else named Steve Sims that didn't have such a good name. So if anybody saw my Instagram page, used AI the other day to put up a picture of what Steve would look like with driving his favorite motorcycle with an old fashioned in his hand, which is most times you saw Steve, that's what he had in his hand. But on Joe's, and once I wrap this up, we'll bring you back in, Ed. So Joe had us on, and at the end of Joe's interview with Steve, he's like, "Hey, have you met my friend Brian?" And he's like, "Brian, do you have anything to tell Steve?" And at the time, Steve's mustache had grown over, like he let it grow so long that it covered his upper lip. And I said, "Hey, Steve, I teach how to understand people based on their facial features. And if you want to be seen as more approachable, you need to trim that up so people can see your upper lip, even though it's kind of thin, and it'll make you more approachable." And Steve goes, "Do you think I care?" And I think he added a cuss word in there too. And I was like, "Okay, well, F you too then." And I actually, when we got done with the podcast, I called up Joe. I'm like, "I think that dude hates me." And Joe's like, No. He's just kind of a sarcastic SOB. And so I followed up. I got Steve's email from Joe, and I followed up with a few PowerPoints. I said, "This is the reason I brought that up." And Steve followed back up and he goes, "You want to be on my podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then after the podcast, he goes, "You want to come speak at my event?" I was like, "Oh, hell yeah." And so that was my first official 45 minutes as a speaker in 2021, not little bit pieces that I had. And I'm always thankful to Janine Driver for giving me my first time ever on stage. Steve gave me my first official speaking gig ever in my world. And it was an event that he had called Speakeasy. And you don't know who's going to speak. Everybody, we all sit in the audience as if we're attendees. And then all of a sudden they call you up to go speak. So it was a really cool event. You don't know who's going to talk. You don't know where the venue is. They just tell you a city and they give you a host hotel. And that's actually where I met Ed, was in, I think it was September of 2021 in San Diego. Is that right?
In sunny San Diego.
Yeah.
Am I coming across? Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
I did my first live in a week early this morning, and I was like, wow, I don't even know if everything's working.
I don't know how to do it anymore.
I forgot how to do it. Yeah, and I met Steve at a mortgage conference right before I went on the Camino de Santiago. It was in San Diego, and he was speaking. And then they had this thing upstairs. It was a Todd Duncan. I think it was this, it was his sales mastery, and they
Mhm.
had a thing. And I was up there, and he's sitting there with drinking his old fashioned,
Oh,
talking,
yeah.
telling stories about his everything. I was listening to him the whole time, and then I ended up getting his book, and then I'm walking the Camino, and I'm like, I downloaded his book because
Yeah.
I wanted to hear the voice, and
Yes.
he narrated his own book, which was good. That's why I think every author should, even if you have a bad voice, I want to hear your voice because that's who I'm talking to anyway.
Right.
And I listened to it, and that's how it all started for me. And the next thing I know, I did is for the mastermind in San Francisco, and that was where I met so many other people. And then from there, ended up getting to San Diego, and then met you. Because when they brought you in, they said this was a facial recognition guy. I'm like, why the hell do I want to know about software?
Yeah.
And boy, well, I was wrong. And
Yeah,
then,
he couldn't say my name right, and he couldn't at first get what my niche was.
well, at least you're not awesome.
That's true.
Because that boy, it was wrong forever and extremely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking right now. I'm gonna post some pictures up here of Steve in a minute so people know who the hell we're talking about. But the funny thing is, I was trying to go through my phone, like look for what picture of Steve should I have, and it's one of those that my phone has. Whoops, I didn't mean to select all those. My phone has so many pictures of him, that when I was looking the other night, I was just like, it's just years and years. So since 2021, I've just known Steve, and he really changed my life in so many different ways.
Well, Steve says what he does is he helps open the door, but you have
Yeah.
to walk through it. And that's because he helped me, introduce me to people, and I got a documentary out of it. I've
Hmm.
done a bunch of stuff from that. But he coached for a while, and then, my industry changed and I couldn't afford the coaching, and I did other stuff.
Right.
But I mean, he, like I said, he did a lot for me also. I think he's done a lot for a lot of people.
Yes.
And he's pissed off a lot of people, and
Yeah, he did.
that's just who he is. And he was not. I can't say he was the nicest person. He definitely gave you a rub, And I was talking to Courtney the other day about it and the whole thing. And if you say something nice to him, he always asked you if you were a lady or something else. And
Yep.
yeah.
That's typical. That's why when I did the post about him, I did I'm going to miss this ugly bastard, right? And that's because that's what he would expect. Like he doesn't want sadness. He doesn't want mourning. He loved sarcasm. Hated to be touched, right? So I would love to tell people, oh, he's a hugger. So as soon as you meet Steve, make sure to give him a hug because you knew that was just going to drive him up the wall.
Well, it's like
Uh,
when I was on stage in what was that? Was it Tennessee? Where not Tennessee, Austin? No, was it? Yeah,
yeah,
Austin was that little
Austin, because
city.
that's when everybody's water bottles kept
Yeah,
falling over
and
and doing the loud
he
clunks
was
when you
being a
did your
dick.
no talk.
He was being a dick to me, and I called him a dick on stage, and half the audience was like, "Oh."
Yeah. Well,
And
he
everybody
did a
didn't
post.
understand. You had to be close. You had to know Steve, and that he was good. That was our relationship that I had with him, was a totally different relationship.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
and
a typical
that's how you knew you were in
relationship.
the inner level with him, right? Like you had to be able not just to take shit from Steve, but give shit to him at the same time. That was a big one. I'm looking at more pictures here. Matter of fact, there's a lot of pictures you and I at Secret Knock with him, you name it. Like I said, Courtney.
Oh, I don't have those. Can you send me those?
Yeah. I'm just getting ready to airdrop them to my computer so I can pop them up and we can go through a few of them here in a minute.
Sorry, I'm a little dragging ass today because it was 12-hour day yesterday travel time
Yeah.
to get back, and then I was up this morning at 5:30 to go to Rotary because I got my kick out this weekend. I'm kicking out the past president because as the past president, the immediate past president runs the kick out for the current past president.
Gotcha.
And that's my thing this weekend. Where hopefully he's not listening. We're doing a roast, so
That'll be fun.
yeah, because we'll normally do a skit. Like they found out I was an actor and model, and because I showed these pictures of me modeling. I was like, holy shit, he was actually good looking. Yeah, back in the day I was. And so they used that at my kick out, and they did a whole skit about me being a younger person going in modeling, acting, and getting pictures taken and all. It was pretty good. It was funny. Probably the funniest skit we've seen. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
and then
Roasts are always fun. For a while, I think people were afraid to have them just because the political climate and everybody's going to get canceled and whatever. But if you know you're in for it, and you decide to go to it, that's like going to a comedy show and being upset about something. So it makes no sense. But
Well, it just depends on how rude you want to be, right?
right.
And then we're going to be rude, but not too rude.
Right. All right. I'm looking for. Let me see here. What do I want? There you go. I'm going to share some of these. These are just going to be random pictures. So, of Steve and out there. So let's see. There we go. All right. So, obviously this was here in Venice Beach. So Steve would do things like, I couldn't attend that particular event, but he's like, you need to come.
Here
Yeah.
in Venice Beach. You're not in Venice Beach. So
In the picture I was.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
Venice Beach.
Yes.
Not here in Venice Beach, because it sounds like you're in Venice Beach right this moment.
All right. For all the pictures, I'm going to talk about the location. I'm not physically there. I'm in Dallas. Are you good now?
That's perfect.
So yeah, this one was here, but I couldn't go to that one because it was my daughter's spring break. And he said, hey, come in for the dinner before. I want you to meet someone. And that's when he introduced me to Jay Abraham. And that's the kind of person Steve was, is he was a constantly connecting people to other people. So not only did he bring people in, and he vetted people. So for people who haven't heard Ed and I talk about it before, the speakeasy is very small, 40 people. They had to be vetted. Like, you can sign up, but if they did a background check or they interviewed you and they didn't like you, you just didn't get to come. And there's people who got uninvited to never come back again. But again, you never knew who the speakers were, who was going to come talk. One of the speakers from New York City, Trish Brooke, who lives in New York, she sent me a voice text yesterday because she knew Steve and I were close. And it was an interesting side effect of the people that we didn't realize were connected to. Like, you and I would never have met if it wasn't for Steve, right? And we've been on this podcast going on 3 years. And it was because Steve goes, you guys should do a podcast together. That's just kind of who he was. This one was
we spent so much time doing a ton of shit together. I would use you as my, we'd go out to bars at these places, and I would give you shit and get you. I bet you can't get to that person and talk.
Exactly.
And I'd make you like the mom over there, and so you'd go through the kids to get to the mom, and it was
exactly. And then one time it was like 14 guys, one girl, and like, yo, go talk to that person. So it was just
that was the first night.
Yeah.
And back at that big that was in Arizona, right? The one before that one right there.
That one's in Scottsdale at Tina and gosh, I forgot her husband's name's place, because he did 2 or 3 events there. That's where he made fun of me for being the bartender.
Right. I was there for his, and then he did something else with
he did a one day with him and Cossum. Yeah. That one was here in Dallas when we did the speakeasy where you have to walk through the kitchen to get there. So that was Steve's. One of the things that was very, very particular about was his old fashioned. So if he went somewhere and they didn't give you a block of ice and they gave you crushed ice, he would not use that venue. So when he was setting up these speakeasies to go different places and organizing the dinners and everything, if they didn't make the old fashioned right, that place was X'd off his list. So he's very particular about his cocktails. But yeah, that was at a bar in Dallas.
Did you know there's a speakeasy in the Denver airport?
I just saw that on Instagram. I'm hoping to fly through there again soon. So we shall see.
My wife sent that to me on TikTok.
Yeah. I just saw that one the other day. This was New York City. This was actually the last speakeasy that Steve was at, because he was in the hospital for the last one that they had in California. But he had the venue that they picked was freaking awesome because you have that New York City background that's out there. Let's go back to.
My TV started making noise again.
Oh, you're good. This one was at Secret Knock. So that was one of the things with Steve is not only did he invite you to his events, but he brought you with him, if you were in his inner circle, to other events. So him and Greg Reed are very, very close. Greg would speak at Steve's events. Steve would speak at Greg's events.
And you know why, right? Because they came up together, kind of like what we did.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They
helped each other out. Yeah.
Was it that they went to go speak at the Pentagon or something like that together, and that's how they met?
Yep.
Yeah. And they became friends. And when
Grant Cardone gave crap to
Greg, I heard.
Greg, and then Steve just gave crap to Grant Cardone on the stage.
And that's just part of who he is, right? But yeah, so we go to Secret Knock. That's I spoke at Steve's event in San Diego, and then he turned around. They're like, "Hey, come speak at this event." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool."
And so he's into motorcycles, but he's also into watches, and we were in the same kind of watch club together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the watch that he's wearing there is kind of the same one I have. Yeah.
See, I did not know that part about Steve. That was us here at the Dallas event talking. There goes Secret Knock in the background. Just one of the things that Steve also did is he invited people. If you were in his clique, he would showcase you. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people when you sign up for masterminds, it's all about them. And they never bring up anybody who's a part of the mastermind. They only bring in external speakers. And that's not one of the things that they did. Is Steve would include people to help you share your message and grow as a person. That was in New York City. I actually was still a 9-to-5er in that one. And I took a day off work and I snuck out there and surprised Steve when they were in New York City. That was kind of a fun one to go to. That one was in Orlando, and you can see he did not like his old fashioned.
All right. So we got a lot of pictures of Steve.
Yeah. These are fun stories with Steve, right?
San Diego.
Yeah. That was San Diego at the Secret Knock. That one was the last one we went to.
You sure that was at Secret Knock?
Yeah. Because it was at that
same
venue.
Downtown. Yeah. It's
downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
So right in the background where the Tesla is, over here, is actually where the venue was. So we were taking a picture across the street because they didn't have alcohol, and we snuck over to go get drinks. You know, Steve, he needed a drink before or after he went on stage. That was us hanging out in Orlando. So there's Courtney that you mentioned earlier. So that one was in San Diego. But yeah, it was just, there you go. So that was that Secret Knock that we went to at the reservation. That was the first one I went to, where you played photographer and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, just some fun pictures with Steve that ran across. So there's Gregory that we talked about. Joe.
I'm just being Steve, all right?
I know. So Joe is how I met Steve, right? So that's this guy right here. And then, of course, Gregory we just talked about.
Right.
That was at that same house in Austin. Because I was going to say, that's really what Steve looks like on a regular basis. Just this cranky old man. And then, of course, Christy
Black
and
t-shirt.
Henry, his son.
Black t-shirt.
Yep. Black t-shirt. Grumpy old man. Nicest guy at the same time.
I took
we already saw that one. There you go.
Here's my birthday.
Yeah. So I ran across that one. There we go. That was actually in the place in San Diego that I spoke at for the first time.
Yes,
Kelly, that was his name.
Was that in Arizona? Where my birthday?
No. Which one? The birthday one?
Yeah, where was that at? That was a weird. I can't remember where that.
No, that'd be Austin, wouldn't it?
I don't remember. It was
when's your birthday?
July.
July.
Just happened this week.
Right, but how many of the speakeasies did you and I go to together? So we went to Austin.
Yeah, but that wasn't a speakeasy.
No, that one. Yeah, it was.
Was it? Okay.
Oh no, was it Traffic and Conversion?
I don't remember what that was. No, because everybody was. No, I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
No,
I'd have to look and see. Hold on, I can look and see where that picture.
You have to get closer on that menu.
Yeah, well, I can look up and see where it was, but let me see here. Let me find that picture.
But I could swear.
Cancel here. All right, so that was in Scottsdale.
Yeah, so
Scottsdale Waterfront, February 22nd of 2022.
That was because they made that shit up. That wasn't.
Yeah, that's what they like to do, right? They like to harass somebody by saying it's their birthday. This one was funny. I don't remember where the hell I was, but there was a Steve lookalike. So, that was at Secret Knock because I can see it in the background. I can tell. Yeah, so that was a Steve lookalike at one of the bars we're at. We already saw that one. This is Steve in his natural habitat. Notice the middle finger there. So I like that one. That one was in New Orleans. I know because my sparkly jacket. What's funny is Natalie is stuck in the back of this one, and then she's stuck in here too. So her and her husband would fly in from the UK just to come to the events. That's the kind of pull he had. So there's our friend Pam Pryor. Steve was up there. This was in New Orleans. You see Atiba. You always know because of his hat. What else we got? I think that might have been the last one of the ones I grabbed. So anyway, just some fun pictures of Steve. So a lot of people, back to your story, is I did a video talking about Steve in a PowerPoint. And Steve posted and he said, I don't know about this Brian guy. He keeps using my face without me asking. And it was a joke, right? But people didn't get his sense of humor. So my mom called me later. She's like, I saw on Facebook, it looks like Steve is mad at you. You need him. He's really helping you. And I had to fill her in. I'm like, no, that's just part of who Steve is. But yeah, it was kind of funny. That's just the kind of personality he was. You know, he was pranks, talked a lot of trash. If he didn't flip you off or cuss you out or question you on things, like even his own son, like they go to dinner And Henry shared this yesterday. In his social media post, he's like, they'd go have steak together, and he'd call his son a lady for ordering a glass of wine instead of whiskey with it. So it was just kind of
wine's better. Whiskey sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Yeah. So he was you're going to see a lot of people. And when I say this, I did the post yesterday. You're going to see a lot more of these. He impacted a lot of people's lives. And if you have not listened to or read Blue Fishing, I recommend listening to it on Audible, kind of like Ed was talking about. You get to hear Steve's stories in his own voice. And that is a fantastic book to listen to.
And then his other book's going to be really good because people aren't going to be able to talk to him and be right. around him like we were.
Yes.
So they'll not so they should get both books.
Yeah. Go for Stupid's the second one. Maybe we'll put this in the comments later on. Blue Fishing was the first one because people didn't know his whole background. And so we'll kind of give away a little bit of it. He used to do concierge services. So you want to go hang out with the Pope, you want to get married or propose to somebody at the Statue of David in Florence. You want to go to, back in the day, Playboy Mansion, the F1 races in Monaco. He was the guy that made that all happen. He was the guy for years who got people into Elton John's Oscar party. And the funny thing about it is you can tell it's not because of his looks, right? But he was a bricklayer.
He would connect people.
He was. But he started out going in the family business, which was being a bricklayer in London. And
hey, don't give the book away. Let him read the book.
I'm just saying. So the point of that is you can become anything. It's not where you start. It's what you decide to go and do. But what's really ironic is if you look at what his first skill was, and that was taking individual bricks and putting them together to build something, that was kind of his personality. And that was he surrounded himself with good people, and then he connected those people afterwards. I was sitting up last night. The last few days been snotty, teary, all that kind of stuff, people reaching out. And I was scrolling social media after my daughter went to bed, and the amount of people that had a picture with Steve and talked about the impact that he made by seeing more in them than they saw in themselves was the repetitive theme. And that's who he was. He pretended to be this gruff exterior, and he could be mean, right? Like he could break you down.
Yeah.
But he did it to help you, not to hurt you.
Uh-oh, I might be losing internet.
That's fine. If you do,
away, I'm not coming back.
All right.
Because I don't know how long it'll be.
Sure. But yeah, that's just a part of who Steve was. Is he was tough. Like when I had him as my coach, like he tore my stuff apart. Like the first thing he did is like, what's this GoDaddy crap? What are you, then, so of course he helped me redesign my website. He helped me with learning to get on speeches. And then if you reached a certain point with him, then he started referring you to people too. Like I've got several speaking gigs because they're like, hey, Sims said I should reach out to you. That's how I met, Chris Casamassa, Adam, just drew blank on Adam's last name, but the other martial arts guy. What's that?
No, keep going.
No, not Adam Raymer Brown. That's a different one. But I know him now. Like those are the connections points as a result of knowing Steve. And that was the best part about it is he was a connector. He introduced people. I always call him the human Geico lizard. I'm like, people would not listen to you if you didn't have the cool accent. But
and now I know why our numbers are down today because you didn't include my ex.
Oh, I didn't see it in the list.
Always on the list. It's like the last, close to the last.
Was it? Okay. I'll have to add it back in next week.
I get more people watching me on X than anything else.
I need to add mine in there. So, but yeah, I haven't had a chance to. But yeah, that's just kind of who he was, is he saw in people what they didn't necessarily see in themselves. And there's a lot of people who will bring on anybody as a client because they think more about the money. But he looked to see, was it something he could actually help you with? And, I spoke at the Go High Level event this past October, so almost a year ago. And it was through connections of Steve because I went 2 years ago when Steve was on the main stage. But he introduced me to people. He's like, hey, I'm going to get you a ticket. Come to it. I know it's in your hometown. And so he would do things like that. Like you and I got into traffic and conversion and got to go to a ton of stuff and hang out in the VIP area because that's part of what Steve negotiated was they didn't pay his fees. Like, well, then I want extra VIP passes for my people. And so you and I went, and that's where we got to meet Martha, Qasim, Christine, all those people because he negotiated. If he couldn't, he was always looking for other ways to help people at the same time.
Yeah. So, and then again, that's because of traffic conversion. That's how I got on my documentary. So if I wouldn't have been there, I would have never got connected. And he's like, dude, I opened the door, you walk through it. So
I'll have to find.
he didn't say dude, but that was my word.
I got to find a funny picture to share here in a second. My bee sting in Austin. So,
Jesus. So that was
yeah.
huge.
So Steve,
Quasimodo.
he called a little bit early. And he's like, "Hey, we're gonna go." Let me send these to my computer here. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna go ride go-karts the day before. Why don't you come down and do that with us?" I'm like, "Okay, cool." And so we go and we do golf carts.
No,
Not
go
golf carts.
karts.
Go-karts. Sorry, thank you. My brain went away when I was looking for the pictures. So anyway, we go out there, and when we do it, then we get done, and there's actual races going inside. So it's the same track that the F1 in Austin's at. And so he's like, "Hey, let's go take a look." I'm like, "Okay." And we peek our head around the side, and we see that there's a bunch of bees, like a whole lot of bees. And we're like, "Oh crap, that's a lot." And all of a sudden, one comes over and just lands right freaking here, and it stings. And I'm like, "Oh crap!" And I'm like, "That hurt." Like it's one of those. Gave me I pulled out the stinger. Steve helped me with it, and I was like, "Okay, well, not doing too bad." But then let me show you guys. Can I redo this one? No, I need to get rid of that one. So stop that screen, present again, share screen, window. There we go. So what happened slowly over time is that that bee sting got steadily worse throughout the day. So while we're talking, there we go. There's picture number one. So the entire side of my face started to swell. I was like, okay, that starts to look ugly. And that's where I got the nickname Quasimodo from Christy, who was there. After that, this is what it looked like, which was kind of scarier. When it got really scary was when I woke up the next morning and couldn't open my freaking eye. At that point, I was like, oh, time to go to the doctor. So what I've learned is I don't think I'm allergic to bee stings, but if I get stung right here, this will be the after effect of what I look like.
Yeah,
So,
you're probably allergic now.
Yeah. So
yeah, you should have hit yourself with some Benadryl ahead of time or something.
Oh, I took Benadryl, but it didn't help. So anyway, it was just a lovely picture, but that's where I got the nickname Quasimodo from Christy, was as a result of that. So anyway, I've been talking the whole time. What do you want to talk about, Ed?
Yeah, I'm letting you talk the whole time because you had more in the last 2 years a closer relationship than I did with Steve, because mine was a couple years ago.
Right.
We, just because of everything that was going on in my life differently than what was going on back then.
Yeah.
So I mean, he helped you with gigs all the way through recently.
Mhm.
And he, just like all of us, we're different individuals, and so
Yeah.
he'll be missed by a lot of people, and he's not going to be helping a lot more people get to where they're going. The question is going to be, who's the next Steve going to be, if you understand what I mean by that, to get us to help out. Yeah.
Who's going to be the next connector? All those. Gosh, I met him, like I said, 2021, and almost went to every event he had, unless there was like the ones I'd miss because like kiddo spring break. I'm not giving up kiddo spring break or anything like that. Um, the rooms were always good to be in, and not just from you and I talk about this all the time, and you're a master at this, and this is something I need to improve upon. He would stock the room with quality people. So the speakers may be awesome, but so are the people who are sitting next to you. And there was no green room. There was no anything. Like I said, the speakers are in the audience. So it's kind of this like, who's the mole game where you go. And the only way you know who a speaker was is if you were in his coaching, you got to meet the speakers the night before, because he would do a dinner for all of his clients and the speakers. But if you weren't a part of that, then you come in, you start figuring like, okay, who doesn't fit in here? Who's going to be speaking? Because you never knew who it was going to be. And sometimes, like one time he came up, we were in New Orleans. He's like, hey, you want to get up and talk for 15 minutes? I'm like, I guess I am. So sometimes the speakers didn't even know who was going to speak. But he was always looking for those connections. So he introduced me to Brad Sumrock, Lee Richter. Just this past week, Jay Abraham let me speak to his mastermind of Japanese business owners. And that never would have happened if it wasn't for Steve introducing me to Jay Abraham. And for anybody who don't know who that is, go and Google Jay Abraham. He was Tony Robbins' coach. There's documentaries about him, I think, on Amazon Prime. And so a lot of people, they bogart or they hold tight their connections, and they're afraid to do introductions because they think, well, what if they like them better? Or what if, and that's not the way it was for me, So
No.
yeah.
It's about helping people, and he was good at that. But he
Yeah.
also beat you up at the same time. So,
Oh, he absolutely did.
well, also, I think it was his way to figure out if you could handle it.
Yes.
Because
It
can
was
you
his litmus
handle the
test.
yeah, can you get on stage? If you can't take his abuse, couldn't get on stage.
Yeah. Are you coachable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just talking about yeah, but getting on stage is not easy.
No,
And if you can't take a little abuse, you're not gonna be good on stage.
that wholeheartedly. And, he was also a guy that wasn't afraid to say that he has coaches. So his coaches were Jay Abraham, Joel Weldon. And that was the thing is if you hire someone to be your coach or, you do anything, that's the first question you should ask them is what masterminds are you in? Who are your coaches? Because it's the people who don't have that coach who you don't want them to be your coach or go to your event. So, Steve was in different masterminds. He was on the, what's it called now? Driven.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's on the faculty with them. That's one of the things. And if you really look at how he brought his son Henry along with him. So here you have Steve, who's secretly an introvert, but he looks like the extrovert on stage. And then you got his son Henry, who is also an introvert, right? But Steve is the stage guy and Henry's the behind the scenes guy doing all the analytics and figuring things out. And Steve could have made it all about him. But what we also saw over the last few years was he changed it from Steve D. Sims to the Sims Distillery, because he knew he also wanted to bring up the next evolution, which was seeing it as a family event and including his son in it with a
Yeah.
lot of stuff.
That's why it's Sims Media.
Exactly. And to see what Henry's grown as a result of that, right? Because before it was Christy making horrible coffee in the back. If she's listening, she knows I love her. But that coffee machine that they took made the worst coffee. So my question for all of the events was like, where's a good coffee shop that's close by?
Yeah, we always went to Starbucks.
Yeah. And Henry was behind the scenes, right? He was doing the cameras, he was doing things. And what we've seen over the last few years is Henry getting up and presenting of what was going on behind the scenes in their business that Henry was doing, from all the analytics to researching what rants Steve was going to record on a video and all this kind of stuff. So it's been a kind of a fun evolution to see that side as well. And probably the funniest thing for people who really, truly knew Steve is he is an introvert. And so he would hide in the corner, headphones, usually listen to Pearl Jam before he talked, and he kind of like pace. When he got off stage, you'd have to protect him from other people because people see you on stage, they see you get off stage, and they want to come talk to you. And that would freak Steve out, right? Like he needed to go decompress. And so there were times where I did like stand as a bouncer in between people who were trying to get to Steve. I think you were at an event. Were you at the event that he got off stage and went back to his hotel room? And it turned out he won an award.
No.
And they had to call him back out of his hotel?
No, I wasn't at that one.
I thought you were for some reason.
Or I just don't remember,
Yeah.
And when you're on stage, if you give it all, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much until that year I was president of my Rotary and had that thing each week. I was like, holy cow, I'm done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get it. You go up there, you give it all, and you introverts. That's the one thing about it. You give it all, and you got to go back to your room to get re-energized and get away from people. So
yeah. Well, and I told the story, or I did a post the other day about that. That was the most surprising thing about this industry is the people who get up on stage. There are a few people who want the spotlight and the attention and everything else, but it's the desire to help other people is what gets a lot of them out there. Because most of the speakers, I'm going to say 75% of the speakers are introverts, but they have a message to share to help other people. And that was the biggest surprise to me was that's the way it was. Because you see people on stage and we're used to thinking, oh, well, if they're up on stage, they just must be a total extrovert and, all these things, but they're not, so green rooms are always an interesting place because you don't know, should you talk to the other speakers or not? So using two totally different examples, I was at not traffic conversion, door-to-door con a year and a half ago. And Chris Voss was in the green room. And I always wanted to meet Chris Voss, got his book over here, Never Split the Difference. And I wanted to re-meet him because I actually crashed an event he had here in Dallas because my old company wouldn't pay and invest in our salespeople. So I found out what hotel he was at. And then when they went on their coffee break, I snuck into the room and I had the Never Split the Difference book and I had him autograph it. And we took a picture and he goes, I don't remember seeing you in here. And I'm like, because I'm not. And then I just took off and left. So I showed him that picture last year when we were in the green room, but you never know when you walk up to somebody, can you talk to him or not? So like Steve, don't talk to him before he goes on stage. Don't talk to him after he gets right off stage. Now, Chris Voss, talk to him, no problem whatsoever. He just enjoyed talking to people. But what was really cool about him is he made it about other things. He said, read my book. That's my experiences. But you need to read like Robert Greene's books, because that's re-engineering to understand things. So you have to study multiple people, multiple books. But I never would have been backstage had Steve not given me a chance and then became my coach, because he opened so many doors. He introduced me to so many people that I would never have made it as far as I have if it wasn't for him. And when I say that, he's not the only one. I want to be very, very clear. The very first person who ever gave me a stage was Janine Driver. And she gave up 15 minutes of her time to let me talk. And then I knew I had the bug and this is what I really wanted to do. But Steve gave me my first big opportunity of, hey, 45 minutes of just you. And he continued to do that through the event I spoke at 2 months ago. Was supposed to be Steve and I speaking at a place called VR Nation. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to leave the hospital. So Greg Reed came in his place. But that was an event that Steve and I were supposed to speak at together. And I bawled like a baby the other night to think I'll never have another old fashioned with Steve, or go to another event like that. So it was a tough week earlier this week, but I'm happy. Like the last time I saw him was in Orlando, and I'm going to share this story and then you can take over, or we can end it for today. We got done speaking the event and we went across the street to Capitol Grill because it was the closest one to the hotel. And of course I ordered an old fashioned, and Steve's like, yeah, I want an old fashioned too. But I'm trying, not tequila. What's it called? Mezcal. And he's like, I'll try one with mezcal. And she goes, oh, do you want Casamigas? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And she didn't say anything. So I go to close out our bill because, Steve got me the gig. I'm like, I'll buy him a drink and everything. I go close out, and my drink was $21. Steve's was $154. So the waitress should have said something, but I look at Steve. I'm like, hey, how's the old fashioned? He's like, it's okay. I'm like, can you just drink that like with an eyedropper? And he's like, why? I'm like, because that one's $154. Mine is $22. So I gave him shit about being a prima donna.
That's from me, because I'm the one that would do old fashions with tequila instead of the other way. It's because that's how I don't like whiskey, and then I liked it with mezcal better. And that was at the place in Arizona.
Oh yeah. I don't remember drinking. Here's the challenge. If I want to keep it slow, then definitely mezcal, because I won't drink them fast.
Why?
Well, I like the taste of them, but it's not something that I would sip fast. Like same with tequila. Give me vodka soda, give me tequila soda. The tequila soda is going down slower. So if I want to be a controlled chaos, mezcal or tequila for sure.
Well, mezcal to me is just smokier. I like the smokier taste. That's what I like about it. But it doesn't have the bite that the old fashioned does with whiskey and other stuff. So
yeah. So I did that AI picture. Let me see if I can find it.
I saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun one to play with yesterday. I was like, I just want a picture of, I took 2 pictures of AI or of pictures of Steve, put it in ChatGPT and just said, hey, draw me a picture of Steve. I uploaded a picture of him with him drinking an old fashioned. Then I found his favorite motorcycle. And that was the one that, where'd it go? Yeah, there we go. So that's ChatGPT rendition of Steve.
Kind of looks like him. It's not exactly him.
Yeah.
That's
I did have him add rings and all that stuff.
You forgot his eye
piercing. Well,
earring.
It was in the picture, but AI didn't catch it.
You got to remember, AI really has a problem doing your faces. Just like the other day when you had yours done and you asked it to do a couple of things and it made you not look like who you were.
Yeah. Oh,
you're like, who's this guy? Well, that's what it does. And you want that because you don't want someone to be able to say you were with somebody that you weren't with somebody.
Correct. Let me see if I can.
And I don't mean to be a killjoy, but I do have to jump off because
I'm back
today. Today's my first day back since last week, and it's just been nonstop today. And I got in late last night, up early this morning, and I'm dealing with fires today. That I was talking to Courtney 2 days ago because of all this, and we were talking about deals, and he's like, "Dude, deals." you don't even know if they're going to close. They're like held together. I'm like, yeah, bubble gum and duct tape until the end, because you don't know if they're really going to close. And he's like, yeah, it's so bad. And that's what we've been dealing with lately. A lot of those. My VA is easy. Those are done, no question. But you got conventional FHA, different things that come up that are unusual. Like I have one deal it's so rare. It happens to an underwriter once in their lifetime and a loan officer once in their lifetime.
Oh,
and
really?
I asked ChatGPT to tell me, help me explain to my clients how rare this is. And it gave me this statement. Let me get it I sent it to an agent I was talking to yesterday because he's part of the transaction. And it says, it's not quite Bigfoot rare, but it's closer to unicorn rare.
Okay. It's an interesting way to explain it.
Yeah, that's how rare it is. It's one of those things that comes up, unusually. So, because I was getting upset, nobody understood what I was doing and couldn't give me the information. And then,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that was just it. And then I would come to find out it's so rare that, it happens, like I said, once in a person's lifetime, if they even have it happen to them.
I do want to ask you, well, we'll keep it for next week, about something I heard the other day about rent being able to be used in future with mortgages. So we'll save that for next week.
That was about credit.
Yeah.
That's to make your credit better.
We're good.
So we do that now, right now. We do it now.
Mm-hmm.
You can add it as a trade line. What they're saying is with the new credit score, the Advantage score, that you can just add it and it's there, and it's like another trade line.
Good.
So,
I mean, because rent's not cheap, so why not include it?
No, but it just helps because right now we can have it added by this company for $197. Well, you go now with the Advantage score, you don't have to pay again automatically if that company puts it on the credit report.
Yeah.
However, that is a negative, because what if you don't pay your rent on time? And now it's going to show that.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, as good as it is, sometimes
when you're renting,
sometimes you're renting for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the first picture. This was from Adam Lyon's event the other day. And so I want to zoom in on something that's kind of funny.
Those are your AI glasses?
Yeah, these are just regular glasses. But see, it caught the reflection in them right here. So then I asked AI to get rid of it, and it got rid of it. That's fine. And I said, oh, that's actually not a bad headshot. So now can you go ahead and make it high resolution so I can download it? And it did this. I'm like, what the hell is that?
That's a higher resolution of you. That's how you should look when you work out.
That's how I should look in real life. I'm like, okay, how do we go from this to that?
Like, tighter shirt and everything. Like, go back, tighter shirt, everything.
Well, it made the shirt white. Yeah, it gave more of the picture. It was just funny because I'm like, here's the original, And somebody asked me, was this AI? I'm like, no, why would I put glare if it was AI? It was actually my ex-wife asked me that this morning. I'm like, nope, that's me. And then this was get rid of the glare. And so it's the same me, right? But then that's what it thinks I would look like, I guess, better. So.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Can't all be purdy in life. So anyway, all right, you got to get out of here. Today was just going to miss Steve. I actually thought this would be a lot
on your way out and take us out with all that. Okay.
Yeah, I will. But I thought today was going to be snot and tears. I'm actually glad you joined because that probably kept me from doing that. But man, Steve, we're just going to miss you. But he was a guy who took care of so many people in so many different ways. He impacted my life. He started off as, somebody who gave me an opportunity. He became a coach. He became my mentor. And more importantly, he became my friend. Even when I couldn't afford to have him as a coach, he was still referring me to gigs. He'd still check on me and, of course, harass me, which is part of who he was. So he's going to be missed. He's going to be missed by a lot of people. So for everybody else, one of the important things about that is he even had this on. I lied. I'm going to show one last picture. Let me find it real fast. It was what was on his background if you go to his Facebook page. And it was kind of ironic because of what happened. But the last thing he has on there says, life is short. Why is it not zooming in there? Life's too short to play it safe. Disrupt, connect, and grow. And that's part of who Steve was. And the really ironic part about that is nobody knows how much time they have left. There was a point that he looked like he was going to be out of the hospital. Everything was going to be great. And then his stay got a little extended. And he was putting this out on social media. So we're not sharing information that's not supposed to be there. But didn't think that we'd get the call on Monday to say there was nothing else that they could do and that he'd pass that fast. So one of the things to kind of go out on this is tell people what they mean to you now because you don't know how much time you're going to have left. So this ironically is on Steve's Facebook page, but that's just it. So reach out to your friends, reach out to your loved ones, tell everybody what they mean to you now. Don't wait for a funeral or a celebration of life. That's bullshit. To have to wait till people aren't here to let them know what they mean to you. So you never know, even though he was battling with something, where people are in their life. Like, he was pretty public about his. Not everybody is. Not everybody has that ability or gut to share what we call share the shit. But reach out to people. Just tell them, hey, this is what you mean to me. This is how you've impacted me. Because it's a shame to see a Facebook page or several Facebook pages and everything now if people didn't know it when they were alive. So I'm grateful for the time that I met Steve. I wouldn't know so many people, including you, if it wasn't for him. So anyway, with that being said, thanks everybody for joining today. This is ACES53 with Ed Parco and myself. Today would normally have been a guest joker, somebody with special skill or talent. And it still was, because Steve was one of those people. And then, but we're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central. So Tuesdays, just Ed and I arguing like old people from the Muppet Show. And then on Thursday, we have that special guest. If you want to be one of those, reach out to us. And the best way you can support us is just share this information with other people. It's something Ed and I do for fun. We just go live here on the different platforms. And what you got, Ed?
That's it. I got this kind of a short week. Steve will be missed. And it's again, I want to go back to what you said is don't wait. Do your stuff now. Let people know what you mean. If you're waiting on doing something, don't. Go on a trip, do whatever you need to do. Enjoy life. Yes, it's important to work, but also it's important to enjoy life at the same time. And I think a lot of us put stuff off because we're building stuff, and you can build stuff, but you still need to enjoy it, because if you build something and you're not here, what good is it?
Agreed.
All right. Make it a great day. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Ray.
All
Bye,
right.
y'all.
Bye.